Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 26th episode of Tex Messages. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. We're glad to have you here on this Thursday morning, April 26th, as I just alluded to. Lately we've been pretty busy, just enjoying the sunshine, working outdoors, trying to get the outdoor garden prepared for the indoor plants. Looks like we got sunny conditions out today. Had about sun since Saturday, so Saturday, Sunday, it's about 5 days of sunshine, and that's a welcome respite from the months of cloudy and rain and snow and all that stuff too. Now, depending on your soil type, see out here we got it's more like on the clay side. I mean, it's more clay than dirt, or more clay than sand, or any other type of soil. So what that means is that when the snow melts and the moisture precipitates into the ground or permeates into the ground, then the dirt is a lot softer. So when you want to till it up, it's a lot easier to till it. But if it's too wet, then it'll stick onto the shovel or onto your tiller, and then it'll just be a big mess. So I mean, any time of the year is all right to till the garden. Because sometimes you might want to till it at the end of the year when you get all the junk. When everything is done, then you just want to mix up the soil, mix up some nutrients in it or whatever. But usually I found that the best time to do it is probably early spring, and I just do it with a shovel. It's pretty fun, the chickens get into it. They're getting after worms and grubs, and the cat hops around too and does stuff. So yeah, I mean everybody's laughing and smiling and enjoying their time. Those rear tine tillers, they work pretty good too. I mean, they are a little bit more spendy. Then it's just another item that you got to have in a shed or a garage, and then you got to maintain it and all that too. There is the option of leasing one though, where it might cost $50, then you can just use it in the spring and then bring it back, and next year you can use it again or whatever. So if you figure a brand new tiller is probably $500. So you could lease that other one for 10 years before before it would pay for itself or whatever. A new one would pay for itself. However, rear tine tillers also do have resale value too if you were to ever decide to sell it again. So I think probably there probably is a limit or a cutoff to a rear tine tiller. Is one of them things where most people buy it and then just never use it. Or they'll use it once or twice, then it'll just go off into a corner of a garage somewhere, and then it won't be used for 10 years, and then they'll try to sell it, and then nothing will work anymore, or whatever the case may be. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of manufacturers design that with that in mind. Like, for example, they don't expect their customers to be using the item every day for 10 years or whatever. So it's not, I mean, if they did, it would be, you got to clean a lot of bearings and filters and change oil in the engine and things of that nature too. So there are a lot of moving parts on it, and you're working with dirt, and the dirt can have all kinds of weird conditions, or it could have moisture, it could have rocks, it could have grass, it could have long plants or whatever that might get jammed into the teeth and the forks of it. So there is a lot to that goes into tilling a rear tine tiller. So, me personally, I just use a shovel, though, or a spade, as you could call it. That seems to work. I mean, it's just, it's a lot of work, and if you don't have a strong back or a strong knees or any of that stuff, then it could be a bit of a hassle. But if you got more than one person working on it, then it's twice as easy. So it's just, figure, you get in what you put out of it. I mean, yeah, if you want to have the tiller laying around your garage and stuff, then by all means go ahead. But the initial upfront cost of them is rather spendy, and I don't really know about the reliability. It just seems like it'd be one of those items where, and I'm not trying to accuse the manufacturer of anything, but it seems like one of those items where the manufacturers are probably skimp on a lot of parts because they know that people aren't going to use them that often, or 3, 4, 5 years down the road when they're out of the warranty, then they can really crap out. Like, if I had an electric lawnmower and a corded electric lawnmower, the battery powered ones just really wouldn't work good out here because it's over an acre, and with the corded mower, probably takes about 8 hours to mow the whole thing. That's why it's nice to, over the years, just continually upgrade the garden, make the garden bigger, build up the soil. Then you have less lawn to mow. Or if you have more fruit trees and then you got to put a bunch of mulch and stuff around the fruit trees and you don't have to mow around that, then less to mow too. So usually when I conjure up a plan of what I'm going to do out here, it's to make less mowing and actually have something useful and worthwhile out of it too. And for example, last year picked up some raspberry plants, and then there's one spot where it's kind of a triangle where you gotta fish the electric cord on the lawnmower around some trees and then mow that part, and then you can go back and resume your regular mowing habits and patterns. So I figured that would be a great place to put all the raspberries. So plant all the raspberries there, lay down a bunch of hay and leaves. In the fall when all the leaves fall on the tree, just raked them up and put them around the raspberries so that there's not going to be any grass that grows around them. It's just going to be the raspberries, and then you don't have to mow that part either. So it saves 5 minutes every time you need to mow the lawn, and you get to have raspberries out of the deal too. And they look good, and probably the chickens will end up eating them all. So it's you're hitting two birds with one stone basically. When you add cool things to your yard, and then you got less lawn to mow too. So there is definitely multifarious considerations when doing yard work and landscaping and all that good fun stuff. But at springtime, definitely have to enjoy it and get the garden ready for planting. Now, overnight it still there is still a potentiality for freezing and frost, so it's probably going to be another 3 weeks at least till we can plant anything outside. And then of course before that, you want to put the starter plants in the shade outside for a week so that they can transition to the hardier conditions outside. That way they won't die or get shocked or whatever else they call it. But probably late May is usually when that happens. And the starter plants seem to be growing good now. Now that they got some more sunlight, that really helps them out a lot too. All plants need sunlight, but you'll find that during the mid to late summer, that if it's not really raining at all, and you get a lot of sunlight, then it just dries the soil up and the plants start to wither, so you definitely need to keep them watered then. And the roots will find water, so if the plants are strong and hardy enough, the roots will go deeper into the soil to find the water. However, if the plants if they've only been growing for about a month or so, they may not have very deep roots, so then it's good to definitely water them. And the best time to water is usually in the morning or the evening time. If you water it in the middle of the daytime, the water will just evaporate and you won't get it out. The soil won't suck it all down. What happens at night is a lot of moisture, and you see this at racetracks too. A lot of the moisture comes up to the surface. So, it does, I guess not technically it's not like a pond in your garden or anything. It's just during the middle of summer, if it's not raining a lot, the moisture comes up closer to the surface. So if you dump a bunch of water in and it's cooler out, the sun isn't shining, that water will get sucked down, and then it'll create a slightly higher water table so the roots don't have to go as deep to find the nutrients in the water, which certainly helps their growth. And then they probably won't wither anymore. Now, you might think, well, how do you get water in the middle of summer if it's not raining? So, good idea to have rain barrels. There's about 8 of them here, 50 gallons a pop, so 400 gallons of water. If there's one good rainstorm, those things will fill up within half an hour. So, it's all incumbent upon you how much water you want to store. There are those 250 gallon rain barrels, which you could definitely utilize them to store rainwater in. Then you pretty much have, I don't know if you'd have water literally all year, but you definitely have plenty of water if you fill up a couple of those 250 gallon ones. And that they come in food grade, or sometimes they'll have cleaning products in them, so then you got to clean them out, ironically. But for the most part, I usually just get what's ever available and what's free. If you got to pay for rain barrels, they tend to get a little expensive, and here we always try to take the minimalist approach by saving money where we can on what we can. Occasionally, quite often actually people will be giving away those 55-gallon barrels, the plastic barrels, polyurethane or whatever. And a lot of times they're not food grade, so you definitely want to clean them out and wash them out after the first few rainfalls just to make sure that there's not a lot of that. The last barrels I got, there's this car wash concentrate in it, so it's just this weird citrusy colored, fluorescent. Looked like it was radioactive material, so it was very important to clean that out the first couple times. It's hard to gauge what would actually happen with the plants. I mean, yeah, the plants would probably be cleaner, but they could also get poisoned too, so there's also that to consider. And if you're dumping weird chemicals into your ground, then it could have just a long-lasting deleterious effect, so you definitely want to avoid that when possible. Now yeah, if you can get food grade barrels, definitely that'd probably be the way to rock and roll. And you can also use well water to water plants, or city water too. But the thing with city water is they will sometimes when there's drought conditions, then they say, oh, so and so, or this side of the road can water, this side can't. So you definitely need to be wary of that. Now, if you got well water, yeah, you can water it probably whenever you want, as long as it doesn't dry out, which it most likely won't because it's hundreds of feet into the ground. So even if it doesn't rain for 3 months, it's probably still going to be moisture and water down there, which doesn't really cause much concern for drying out then. But city water, when you get more people in a small area, then there's a tendency to conserve water. You don't want the Mississippi River to dry up and then just turn into some empty riverbed because everybody's using the water. Even though you'd think that if everybody uses the water and it gets back into the ground and goes through the filtration and it goes back into the riverbed, how can water really ever run out? So, yeah, I never really understood watering bans. I'm sure there's some sweet science behind it, but I mean, if people use water, it's not as if it just evaporates into thinner and never comes back. But I suppose, if you use water here, yeah, maybe some of it probably does evaporate and then gets shipped off to Brazil, and then you got to wait for the water to come back, and then there's certain times of the year where you need to add the water and then you don't have the water, so then people can't drink water, and yeah, it could definitely cause a mess. So water conservation practices are, yeah, they do make sense in that regard, but I mean, if you got well water, you don't need to worry about that nonsense. But yeah, if you're living in the city, then definitely follow the rules and all that, unless you want to have someone bend you over a car hood. But for the most part, if you can avoid getting bent over a car hood, then you're probably doing good things in your life, and you're probably a morally upstanding, hardworking, contributing member to society. So with that being said, water, it's very important, good to filter and all that too. Now yeah, I know I harp on water a lot, but it's just, you gotta have clean drinking water, you gotta have good water for the plants, and it's just essential for your survival. And another thing too, your water softener is very important. City water is pretty soft, but if you got well water, you definitely absolutely want to make sure you're getting the best water softener available, because one of the mistakes I made is I bought a water softener that it was more the consideration I was making was it was a smaller water softener so it could fit in this little area I wanted to put it in. However, the strength of it was only, the maximum hardness was 90 grains per something or another, and that's not quite up to spec for the well water I got out here, because the well water it's full of iron, it's hard, and it's probably well over the 90 grains per hardness that is required to soften the water. And there are other water softeners available out there that have up to 120, so probably should have just bought that right away. And now it's, if this one ever craps out, then yeah, you can buy a new one. But new water softener is $600, so it's not something that you can just one day decide on impulse to go buy a new one. I mean, it's a big investment. I mean, $600 to a lot of people maybe isn't that big of a deal, but to most people, yeah, it's a lot of money. Yeah, maybe there's some. And then if you go on Craigslist or whatever, it's not a product that's oftentimes sold on the second hand. There are some out there for sale, but they're always, they might be some weird commercial ones, or somebody bought one and decided they didn't need it, so they charge $380 instead of $400, and then you don't really get the warranty or anything, so is it really worth it to buy from them? And yeah, good deals are very ephemeral on Craigslist too, so there's also that to consider. I mean, it's just, sometimes you're better off just waiting for a deal at Menards or signing up for a credit card and getting a 10% off deal when you get the water softener and save $50 or whatever. But it is important when you're buying this stuff to have a good idea of what's going on. Like if you get a well pressure tank deal, just to make sure that it works for one. If you're getting a used one, and that the pressure you set to put it at is good enough for your water pipes and your connectors, so that they're not blowing stuff up or that they're not too small or anything too. And that was the other thing with the RO system. When purchasing that, well water is usually at a lower pressure than city water, so then you had to get some additional, the pressurizer is what they call it. So it increases the pressure of the water because the water has to be certain pressure when it goes to the RO membrane, and it shoots it through there and filters out some of the junk. And for the most part, it's just, well and city water are entirely different. So if you're used to city water your whole life and then you transition to well water, there's going to be a bit of a learning curve there. You might occasionally have to change a well pump or the motor or whatever. And some of them are above ground, some of them are deep underground. And you might have to do it in the middle of winter time too, so you got to throw on a bunch of insulated coveralls and get after it. But I mean, for the most part, it's you can pay somebody to do it as well. But it's just good to learn things on your own, so when emergency situations arise, you're ready and prepared to rectify the issue. You know where everything is in your house, you know how it works, how it operates, and then you don't have to call somebody on Christmas morning at 9 o'clock to come fix your well or your heater or your furnace or a sink or a leaking sink or a broken toilet or whatever the case may be. Now if you're living in the city, there's more of the community thing going on there, so then it's a lot easier and for somebody to come out there and fix stuff for you. But there's still economic considerations as well. I mean, nothing is free, so there's always that to consider too. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, I don't really have a central topic today, so that's why it may seem as if the show is deviating slightly from any type of structured approach. I've just been really busy working outside, so just trying to put together whatever we can in whatever time allotted we are. We probably will get into more dynamic discussions in the future, because eventually you think the static topics would dry up, but maybe not. Static things may be a little bit more dynamic than what they appear on the surface. The other night I was looking, Joe Gardner, he does some podcasts about gardening and stuff, and really that's all he talks about, and he manages to do it for a really long time, so maybe it's just all commercials. Who really knows? But there's a lot of very skilled, talented people out there that absolutely know what they're talking about and have pretty good empirical observations and data to go along with everything as well. You can read a lot of books about things too, but unless you get out there and really experience it, then it's hard to quantify accurately what you're saying and whether it's going to be successful or not. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up to a break here. We're going to have good times balls deep in the future. I haven't quite fixed my car yet. I ordered car parts for it, so hopefully they'll arrive soon, and then I can meet up with the host of Good Times Balls Deep. But he sounded like he was pretty close to procuring a sponsorship, which will provide pretty adequate funding for Good Times Balls Deep. So that's always, unfortunately, in our society today, monetary is usually the elephant in the room. Not saying that it's the root of all evil or anything, but it's just that you got to have your finances in order if you want to basically do anything in life. It's if I had lenders and huckster or loan sharks coming after me, or if I wasn't paying the electric bill, then we won't be able to bring you text messages. So it's just, now money isn't always a direct measure of your contribution to society, because there is a lot of shady ways you can attain purchasing power in our society. But it is good to have money, enough money to survive and make it and thrive and be a hard-working, honest person. Hard days work for hard days pay. And you only have so much energy, so you definitely need to be able to balance it with work, family, friends, health, and hobby. If that gets out of balance, then it's just a recipe for disaster. So Good Times Balls Deep, it's going to get probably get the sponsorship for it pretty soon. And that doesn't mean there's going to be commercials all day. It's just, he just has some obligations to the sponsor to fulfill, and then they'll provide the funding. That's basically all it is right there. I mean, it's not going to impede on the quality of the show in any way, shape, or form. You could make the argument that the time spent appeasing, placating the sponsor would inhibit the show's quality, which could sort of be plausible and make a bit of sense, but for the most part, you gotta keep life in balance. And if Good Times Balls Deep just ran 24 hours a day, yeah, the quality of it would probably go down slightly. And a lot of prep work for the show requires actually doing things outside of the talk show. I mean, if Good Times Balls Deep was literally the only thing he did all day, it would probably become a pretty boring show because eventually what would he talk about? He doesn't have any life experience to discuss. But I suppose he could just watch United Nations meetings or MSNBC meetings and then provide constructive input on that as well, which is the direction that the show might take. But we'll see. I mean, he's got numerous ideas. They're coming at us at Mach 4, so we're really excited to be able to bring that show in the near future. Now after we can secure the sponsorship here, so I guess I didn't really probe him too deeply as to exactly when the sponsorship will start coming through and when he has to start fulfilling the obligations to them, but it should be in the near future, ladies and gentlemen. So, but we'll continue to run text messages here, and I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. So we'll be back in 3 minutes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Tex Messages. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. We're glad to have you here Thursday morning, April 26, 2018. It looks like the clouds are starting to clear up a little bit. We're getting some more sunshine, so might be a great day to go outside, set up those anti-gravity chairs, read some books or novels or whatever. Or during your lunch break, just walk around, set up an anti-gravity chair and read a book or novel. But if you got a sedative job, it's probably a better idea to walk around at maybe not a high rate of speed, but a brisk pace. Just to get the blood flowing again and just to get blood and nutrients packing into your spinal column and your neck and just trying to make you healthy again, hopefully after sitting in front of a computer for hours or at a desk for hours, or if you're a telemarketer, calling people on the phone for hours too. Yeah, I mean, the jobs ain't easy. From a physical standpoint, yeah, they appear easy, but to be able to sit at a desk for 8-9 hours a day, it's not a very easy thing to do. I mean, would it be better digging a ditch for 8 hours a day? Probably not, because then you're probably going to have back pain or knee problems if you don't eat enough food to correct the issue at hand. During summer and spring, when you're spending a lot more time outside or just working on the garden and you're expending a lot more energy, you got to make sure you raise your food intake as well. If normally you're eating 3,000 calories a day, but now you're digging up your yard for a few hours and probably using an extra 500 calories, unless you really want to lose weight, then yeah, you could probably eat the same amount of food. But you definitely want to eat a little bit more calorie intake during the springtime if you're outside and doing busy things, because otherwise you'll feel tired and run down and sore and beat up and all that, and then you might even lose muscle mass if you're... See, just because you're doing exercise doesn't necessarily mean you're going to feel the positive effects. If you're not putting in the proper nutrients to repair your muscles, then the muscles are just going to break down and not build back up again. So you need to take that into consideration as well. Somebody could just be laying around all day, not doing a damn thing, eating 3,000 calories. Yeah, they'll probably accumulate more fat storage, but they may have more muscle than you if you're outside working all day and not eating the proper amount of food to repair your muscles. Yeah, there probably is some other collateral benefits to exercising, obviously, as opposed to watching Doritos on a couch all day. So that's no excuse to not go out and do exercise or do work or in your garden or on your car or truck or SUV. It's just make sure you're raising your calorie intake a little bit, drinking plenty of water so you don't get dehydrated. And as far as time in the sun goes, yeah, I mean, the skin cancer thing is probably a little overblown. I've never wore sunscreen in my life. It just seems silly to rub cream on your face to block the sun, which is the essence of life on Earth. So, and yeah, you don't want to overdo it either. I mean, yeah, you can. I mean, there was one time when I biked from Cold Spring to St. Cloud, and I was biking around all day laughing and smiling, and probably spent about, oh boy, it started early in the morning and pretty much went all day. Just biking around with my shirt off and sandals and swim trunks. I wasn't really exposed to the sun very much before then, so yeah, there were some slight ramifications, ill effects of doing that. I can remember in the middle of the night, I walked into the bathroom and just kind of fell over, and I don't know if it was a heat stroke or whatever, but it was just, yeah, I'd had pretty bad sunburn. So make sure, the adaptability. I mean, if you're gonna lift weights, you don't want to load 500 pounds and then try to bench press. You got to gradually work your way up to it, and that's the same with the sun too. Now, the sun in the springtime isn't quite as powerful as during the summertime. During the summertime, when it's 100 degrees out, yeah, you're gonna get sunburn a lot quicker than when it's 60 degrees. Now, that doesn't mean if it's 60 degrees, it's impossible to get sunburn. Because if you're on a lake and the sun rays are bouncing off the lake and hitting your face and everything, yeah, you're gonna get hit with the sun's rays and get a tan or sunburn, or if you got red hair and if you're if you get a lot of freckles and everything too, then yeah, maybe you need to stay out of the sun more, or get one of those big round circular hats to prevent the sunlight. So yeah, I mean, just be aware of how your body reacts to certain things. You know, some people are more and less susceptible to things than others. I mean, someone that lives close to the equator could probably literally lay in the sun all day and never get sunburned. And somebody with, red hair and red eyes, whatever, could be out in the sun for 2 minutes, then their skin is on fire. So, just be aware of your own personal situation. And even though all people are technically created equal, we are created differently. And they're all unique too. So just bear that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Now, one of the topics that I did want to discuss, a central topic. I got this little notepad that I figured I'd just write a bunch of topics on there that I could maybe talk about at some point. Probably look at them and figure, all right, let's maybe do a little bit of research on, then try to figure out some good ideas of what to talk about here and there. But there is one dangerous trend that I've been noticing. I can only speak for America, United States of America, because that's the only country I'm living in, and probably the only country I ever will live in. Yeah, I do have a passport, but probably won't ever have any reason to leave unless there's a very compelling one. But that being said, so as far as the United States of America, a dangerous trend that I'm sure everybody has noticed is manufacturing has gone mostly overseas. Now, it started probably in the 70s when companies started to work together with. That's when China and Nixon ever agreed to some trade stipulations so that they could start to move the manufacturing over to China, and then it would be a lot cheaper, and then they could send it back over here. It was basically just so corporations could save money. There was no other reason for it. It wasn't meant to enrich in China's cultural diversity, or it wasn't meant to allow Americans more leisure time. It was just meant for corporations to get more money. Nothing more, nothing less. The only problem with that is when you buy a product today, pretty much anything, this laptop, this mouse, even this shirt is probably made in India or Bangladesh or whatever. So when you buy these items, we've gotten so accustomed to it that we don't really even think about it. But it is a little sad to know that you'll never actually know who builds these particular products that you're using and wearing. And when it comes to customer service too, you can't really, if there's something wrong with it, you can't complain to anybody because there's such a wall and a chain of command that whoever you complain to has nothing to do with the actual complaint that you're levying. Like for example, if you get if somebody sends you the wrong kit for an RO system, so you want to complain about it, but who do you really complain to? You're going to call up the guy in the shipping department and ask him why he sent you the wrong product? Yeah, you could actually do that, but he's just someone working for an hourly wage, so they're not going to care either way. And what that means is that, say for example, you're going to replace your car windshield. So you can either call some weird corporation with some bunch of people sitting in an office that are doing the dispatch, and then so-and-so owns the place, and then it'll assign so-and-so to do the work. Or you can just call Big Joe Rosso, who has his own office, takes his own calls, has his own products, and changes his own windshields out. So I always prefer just to maybe not patronize, but to lend support to the quote-unquote little man. Or somebody that you can speak directly to. Say, a while back I had my back windshield, for some reason it just randomly shattered one day. So I called up this guy to come out and fix it. He did took his own calls, did his own work, all that, had his own office. So then afterwards, he put this rubber stripping on this one part of the car, and then it fell off. But it was just nice because I could call him and kind of ask him about it. He's just like, oh yeah, I had some spare strip. I just figured I'd put it on there and see if it would make it look better or anything. He's like, it's no big deal. It has nothing to do with the window. So I was like, yeah, cool, good enough. To be able to have that direct line of communication with people doing work on things you come into contact with is very, very helpful, and I would say it's probably necessary to a strong society. This camera, let's say there's a factory just down the road that made this insanely expensive camera. So if I had any questions about it, or if I needed to repair it or get a new one, I could just hit up the factory right away and get my issues settled. So Now, as far as quality goes, see, if anyone who's worked in a machine shop for any amount of time, what they usually find is that there's a lot of machines from the 20s, 30s, and 40s because they're built to last. They're just solid steel. The tolerance is spot on even after 60 years. And yeah, they're really super heavy. But one of the problems that corporations found out is that when they put quality into their product, there's no turnover for it. If you sell a car with all the necessary materials to where it'll never rust, the parts will run for 500,000 miles, and they'll look good doing it, who's going to need to buy a new car then? So what manufacturers found is that not only putting cheaper material into the car allows them the turnover of the car breaking down sooner, it's also cheaper to manufacture the car. So if you look at a car from the 60s or the 50s, the dash is all steel and metal, the seats got those steel springs in them, and they're just made with high quality, and the door upholstery is probably mostly all steel. Everything is just steel, aluminum. The bodies tended to rust out quicker, so there is some technological advances that that we've been fortunate to experience. Like, for example, back in the good old days, they'd make a frame and then they'd set the body on the frame, and then the car would rust out after, if it's in GM's case, it was probably designed to rust out after 100,000 miles. But nowadays, what they do is they take the whole body. The cars are unibodies now. Frame and body are built into one. So they dip that into this big pool of paint and acid and all this stuff that just grabs onto the metal and it never really lets go. And that's why you don't see cars rust anymore. So that is one benefit to modern day manufacturing. But for the most part, manufacturing is just made to cheapen out parts so they can sell it for less, and then you got to replace it quicker. Now, one thing that the American car manufacturers did in the 60s and 70s is, yeah, like I alluded to before, they would design cars, they would test them so they last you 100,000 miles, and after that, you're on your own. And I don't know why they chose that nominally number, but Japan just decided to put quality into their cars and actually take pride in what they're building and build it to last. So they would ship these cars over here. Cars will last 300,000 miles, so people just, yeah, everybody wanted to buy American, red, white, and blue, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and all that, but people are finding out that if they buy a Toyota Camry, thing is going to run 300,000 miles, they very rarely have to fix it and repair it, and it's just a reliable car, and you get that sense that you're actually treated with respect from the manufacturer. Even today, that sort of holds true, because I owned an Oldsmobile for about a year, and that's a car with a back window just randomly shattered. And the other thing too, it was about 20 below, and then I started my car in the idler pulley, made some noise, and then just snapped off. So basically the car left me stranded at 20 below. And I've had this Honda Insight for, I'll say almost 10 years now. Thing has never left me stranded. Now, yeah, it has its problems occasionally. If when I tried to fix the brakes on it, I didn't do the job correctly, and then they started leaking. It's totally my fault. It wasn't a fault of Honda in any way, in any way, shape, or form. I think we're gonna have to go to a break, ladies and gentlemen. Good Times Balls Deep is gonna be coming in the near future. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Tex Messages. I apologize for the last abrupt break. Just transitioning into different seasons, spending an inordinate amount of time outside, and probably putting a lot of more physical effort into a typical day than I normally would. There are some side effects that happen. Some of them are bad, but for the most part, they're positive side effects too. I guess, when you hear a side effect, you immediately think, well, it's probably something bad because it's probably not intentional, but usually, yeah, good things happen when you do good work, especially for other people and with other people too. Together everyone achieves more. The sum of the parts is greater than the whole, all that good fun stuff. So, yeah, before I went to break, we were talking about how old stuff seems to have higher quality than newer stuff. And it was kind of funny because a couple of years ago I bought a furnace for my house here. And there are 2 part numbers available. So I called up the customer service representative, kind of asked him. I was like, well, why are there 2 different parts here? This is one different than the other, or what the deal is. And he just stated simply, oh no, this is just one part is the older part, and then this other part is the newer part. So instinctively, you would think that the newer part would be of higher quality, but living in America for basically my entire life and knowing the direction that quality of newer products is going, I was thinking, well, the older one probably is better. And then, I kind of asked the guy about it too. I was just like, well, is there a difference between them? He's like, not that I can tell, but you do have to be careful because newer parts generally tend to be built just with cheaper quality, cheaper parts and everything too. It's kind of funny that the representative of the company actually stated that too, because that's just accepted now in American culture that newer items are probably of lesser quality than older stuff. I got a few blankets here, like the blanket hanging above this squat rack here is from the 50s, and the blanket behind you, they're wool blankets from the 50s. They might be the kind that itch and everything, but they were, they're built to last. They look like they're brand new, but if you buy a simple product that's built to last, it's going to last a long time. And a couple of years ago, maybe not even a year ago, I bought this organic cotton bed sheet, and then within a couple of months ago, the thing just tore apart. It literally just ripped in half, almost. So, I had to get rid of it, or I think I got it sitting in the corner somewhere as some type of sound absorbent. Well, yeah, unfortunately, it's just quality of things decline. Corporations, they need to make money, and Sally down the road, she's not making quilts anymore, so you got to buy them from Big Joe Rosso's corporate big box store. That's just how things are. It's a little unfortunate, but we just try to do the best with what we're given. And one of the problems too is any public company basically has unlimited resources because the Federal Reserve can just put money into the stock market. I don't know, they have quantitative easing going on, so maybe they're not putting money in, but I think at one point they're putting about $85 million a day just into the stock market, so people can just inject that money into public companies. So I guess public companies don't really need to make a profit if they can just have the Federal Reserve print all the money for them. And yeah, it would be nice just to be able to print money and use it, but if everybody else can do it too, then you turn into Weimar Germany where you got inflation at 30,000% a day, and then Venezuela now and Zimbabwe, they have out of control inflation too. One of the problems that we have, or one of the benefits that we have in America is that a lot of other companies are required to use our currency. So that's why that would be like say you can print money in your garage, but Joe down the road can't. So Joe has to wait for you to print the money and distribute it before he can use the money. So it gives you a big advantage. And one of the reasons why America was afforded that advantage, because after World War II, they cut deals and everything and allowed them to do that. And England, England's got the pound and everything too, but it seems like they're most banking and everything too is centralized in England or the United States. Yeah, that doesn't mean that other countries don't have banks. It just means that world banking originated in England or USA or whatever the case is. So, And, the Federal Reserve, it started in 1913 in America. So they're the ones that can just randomly say they have a bunch of money and give it out to AIG and all these other companies in backdoor deals. And some of the stuff they do is on the surface too, like just dumping 80 million into the stock market randomly every single day. That's public knowledge. But all the stuff they do behind the scenes is obviously not public knowledge, unfortunately. I mean, you think it would be how important just dollars are in general. But that being said too, I mean, when you go to the grocery store, you're not competing against Ben Bernanke and buying eggs or milk or chicken or fruit or vegetables. You're competing against your neighbor down the road or somebody else that lives across town, and they don't have access to dirty money. So that's why items traditionally they raise in price, but it takes a while for all the dirty money to trickle down into the regular population like us, like me or James down the street here. So that's why we can still live a very comfortable lifestyle, because you got to consider who you're competing against as far as for resources too. Like even taxes too. I mean, everybody you live around and that you're competing against for resources, they have to, probably really shouldn't say competing, maybe working together to attain resources, because if everybody is producing and contributing to society and being a net gainer, then you're not really competing if you're creating more than what you're expending, basically. I mean, if you got enough solar panels and wind turbines to make all your own energy and then some, and you can eat more than enough fruit for yourself, or your hens can lay more than enough eggs for yourself, and you can distribute it to other people, you're contributing a net gain to society. Now, it's very difficult to do that when you're not, when you don't have the established opportunities to do so. And a lot of people probably never will, based on a lot of people are victims of social engineering focus, where they herd all these people into big cities and then they can just randomly hand out money so that they continue to have children, and then the children are basically paychecks, and then they get the fathers out of the families too. So then that also contributes to the downfall of a lot of communities, and for a lot of people, when they're born into that, it's hard to look outside the box and see it for what it is. Like for me, it would be difficult to imagine a life without growing your own food or trying to live off the land at least a little bit. If I had to walk around all day feeling sick and bloated and like vomit, I mean, I tried that the first couple years of my life, and it didn't really work out. There were pernicious forces trying to attack me and kill me and all that too, but for the most part, you do have your freedom, free will, independent choice and everything too. And when you're 5 years old, it's hard to make the right decision. Can you blame mentors or people around you? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But you can absolutely blame people that intentionally try to kill kids. And someday we will be coming after them, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not really sure if we need to introduce any new characters to the show to assist in that quest, or if I can just do it myself. But yeah, I mean, this time of the year, we've been so busy with outdoor activities, just trying to make health great again and make outdoor gardening great again. So I haven't really had a lot of, it's not, I say there's no prep work to the show and everything too, but it is important to just think about, look at a show topic and think, all right, yeah, that looks good. Think about it a little bit, maybe think of a few things to talk about or a few directions to go, and then run with it from there. But the last few days, and maybe to an extent the last few weeks, I haven't really put a whole lot of thought and concentration into text messages here. And hopefully we can get good times, balls deep, rocking and rolling pretty soon. That'll definitely be able to pick up a lot of the slack. And then it's just good to have dual shows to entertain you, the ladies and gentlemen at home. Yeah, there's a lot of other talk shows out there too. So, Joe Rogan, he's got a pretty good one. Joe Gardner, he's got a pretty good. Sure, there's a lot of other Joes out there with pretty good ones. And of course, you got InfoWars. They run a pretty quality show there. It provides a lot of insight into what's going on in society if you're not really paying a whole lot of attention. What else do we got out there? Pro wrestling podcasts are always pretty fun to listen to. Yeah, maybe we will do live streaming someday, but I don't really know yet. Plans are, your brain kind of works cyclically. For a month or two, you might be super pumped and excited about something, and then you'll go through a trough where you feel like you're sort of lumbering through it and not really putting the quality and effort and efficient work ethic that you should be into it, and you just got to plow through those low points. And pretty much in anything you're going to have that. If you work at a company, the first couple months of the job are exciting, and then after that it gets a little mundane, so you got to switch it up a bit and try to get excited about something or challenge yourself. I mean, that's the same with running a talk show too. I mean, there's high points and there's low points. So it's just a matter of just plugging away, pedal to the metal, balls to the wall. Always try to, while considering safety too. I mean, you don't want to be completely bombed out of your mind and then running balls to the wall, because then bad things can happen. So always take that into consideration. But I mean, I completely lost track of time here. So I'm thinking there's either we've come up to the hour or there's 5 minutes left, but I'm just going to go ahead and assume that there's 5 minutes left. So we're just going to run through one of these research articles. I'm getting kind of sick and tired of having these same pieces of paper around all the time. So the Albert Einstein College of Medicine found, I don't know why they would name a college after him, but apparently they did. So what they found out is that chemotherapy causes cancer to spread through the body. It increases time-M complexes and circulating tumor cells in blood. It decreases tumor size, but it also increases the metastatic dissemination of the tumors. So cancer is one of those wide-encompassing diseases that you got lung cancer, throat cancer, breast cancer, brain cancer, bone cancer, all different kinds of cancer, and it's probably hundreds of thousands of different ailments. So it's just one of those words that everybody's afraid of. So if something bad is happening to you, then they say, yeah, you have cancer. So then all right, yeah, something bad is happening. Because when you hear that word, it's almost a swear word, or just a word that you don't want to hear about anything or anyone at any time. But there's just been a lot of skepticism towards chemotherapy. People aren't entirely sold on whether it's the most efficient means of treating these certain types of cancers. And a lot of people are worried that they fear that chemotherapy is one of them things where you can keep people into perpetual sickness or the perpetual need for the therapy. Whereas if there's just a cure-all for it, then boom, right away you're cured and you're out of the hospital, then they don't have to keep you under their care and keep you dumbed down or anything, or in the system of hospitality or care or all that good stuff. So yeah, there are some pretty messed up people out there too that may think that way, but for the most part, I mean, if you go to a hospital, all the nurses and doctors and surgeons and janitors, they're all good, upstanding, morally sound people. Unfortunately, yeah, maybe a lot of people that work in the administration or in the corporations are up to no good and just looking at numbers on a piece of paper, not considering the human aspect of saving lives. So you just need to be vigilant of what's going on. And yeah, does that mean if you or anyone you know has cancer, you should seek alternative treatments? Maybe, maybe not. A lot of things I've read is if you walk around with bare feet on the ground, it takes away a lot of the antioxidants in your body, which can create cancers. Or if you eat a lot of sugar and carbohydrates, that feeds cancer cells too. Yeah, just getting outside pretty much cures all ailments. So I don't know what definitively cures or rectifies cancer, because like I said, there's hundreds or thousands of possible ailments of it. So as long as you're leading a healthy lifestyle, I mean, yeah, you can still. Some people are more or less susceptible to things than others. Somebody with red hair goes outside for 2 minutes, they're probably going to get skin burn. somebody with black hair goes outside for 5 hours, they probably won't even feel any deleterious effects. So everybody is susceptible to something. It's just talking to your body and your microbiotics in your gut to know what you're susceptible to or not. I mean, you could be the most healthy person on the face of the planet, but if you're susceptible towards diabetes, yeah, maybe you'll get diabetes. You'll probably get diabetes then. It's just, I mean, it's just how it is. It's just, you know, if your DNA says you're going to have green eyes, you're going to have green eyes. And if it says you're going to have black hair, you're going to have black hair. I mean, yeah, you know, I can stand here and try to say chemotherapy is not the right way to treat cancer and everything. But I mean, I don't really know. For some people, yeah, maybe it isn't the right way, but for some people it probably is. For most people it probably is, but I mean, yeah, there's like the more holistic or natural methods of curing ailments too, which yeah, they could probably be successful. I mean, you know, sometimes you'll hear about so-and-so didn't want to do chemotherapy and then their kid ended up dying, and then it makes the news and it's a tragic story and all that, but I mean, hey, you know, some people are more or less susceptible to things, and yeah, I mean, if their treatment did work, then would have it been on the news? I mean, I don't really know. Unfortunately, I'm inclined to think that no, it probably wouldn't have been. So there's that to consider. I mean, following the money is very important too. Now that doesn't mean that everybody involved in healthcare is just a mean, evil, bad person. It's just that when you profit off of certain human needs, danger can definitely be lurking in the shadows. So you always need to be vigilant. Now, yeah, if you got a friend or family member with cancer, you're in a very emotionally charged state, and you want to make sure you're making the right choice. So for me, I always try to take a proactive approach. Like I'm saying, all right, yeah, if I one day get cancer, this is probably what I'll do. You know, just cut out sugars in general, spend a lot of time out in the dirt outside, just trying to get all the positive electrodes out of your body, and just having a bunch of indoor plants. I'm not staying away from air pollution, hanging out by trees, you know, around green pastures and all that too. So, well, even today, I try to do all that junk too as much as I can. But it's it's not nothing is a perfect system. So you know, it's important to be proactive rather than reactive. I mean, yeah, I get that most people that advocate for this, that, and the other thing is because they had a close friend or family member that got inflicted by a disease or an ailment or whatever the case may be, so then they decided to be a spoken representative of that too. Yeah, I mean, which, you know, I mean, you got to get emotionally involved in things to get a fervent passion for it. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It doesn't mean you're a bad person if you need to be emotionally involved to get excited about something. It's just, that's part of being a human. You have emotions. You know, Lieutenant Commander Data, he's superior to humans in many ways, but he doesn't have emotions, so he doesn't really care about anything, but he always provides you with the absolute accurate information. If you wanted an accurate cure to cancer, you'd probably ask Data before you would ask me or anyone in the hospital, because he's going to know exactly what it is. And yeah, if artificial intelligence can be utilized for positive gains, then I think it'll make society great again. And probably America great again too. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I mean, older items are not always, but some of them are built with higher quality than new ones. Corporations are just, they're legally obligated to make money. If they're not trying to make money, they can be sued by shareholders. And a lot of the workers and employees just don't really take pride in what they do anymore, which is sad. But I mean, if you're working on an assembly line, you're putting the same part on the same car for years and years and years. I don't really know how you could get a pride or passion for that, but yeah, we're all different, and we're all just trying to wade our way through this existence, and hopefully get into the next existence on the right foot here. With that being said, you're listening to Tex Messages. We're gonna have good times, balls deep in the future. The host of that show, he's a pretty funny guy. He's very intelligent too. He's sounded like he's almost finalized a sponsorship deal. So yeah, once we get that, then he'll probably get his own equipment and everything, and yeah, he'll just make St. Cloud great again. Usually springtime brings out the best in everybody too. So hopefully springtime and the nice weather will prompt the producers behind Good Times Balls Deep to bring it to you, the ladies and gentlemen at home. With that being said, though, I'm Rick Tex, the parasite of Tex Messages. We're glad to have you here. We'll probably be back Saturday and maybe Sunday. We'll see how busy things get. It looks like Saturday night Cedar Lake Speedway is having their season opener. So if I can get my car fixed, I'll probably head out in that direction. So Saturday night, 6 p.m., New Richmond, Wisconsin. They got this new bridge now. Before, when you went to Wisconsin, you had to go through Stillwater, and inevitably there's always going to be traffic jams and long delays. But it was kind of cool to drive across that lift bridge, though. But now they got a new overpass that goes into Wisconsin, so it should cut down the travel time. So yeah, Saturday night, 6 p.m., New Richmond, Wisconsin, Cedar Lake Speedway. For any of you watching, should be a good time. Looks like it's going to rain tomorrow, Friday, so yeah, we may or we may not do a show on. We will definitely do a show Saturday morning, Sunday maybe, but we'll see. Thanks for watching.